Hey guys, how's it going? Here is going to be the project. This belongs to, I guess you'd call it a friend of a friend, and they contacted me, wanted to know if I could get this thing running. What we were told about it was that it ran last year, and her ex-husband just, left it behind, and she needs it running because she needs a riding lawnmower. She's got a pretty big lawn. So let's see what all we got wrong with it. The deck is a disaster. It is absolutely filthy. And as I was unloading it from the trailer, I'd swear I felt something catch underneath on the wire mesh, and the trailer's got a mesh bottom. And I just wonder if it doesn't have a blade turned into a pretzel. That happens sometimes. For an engine, we've got the 17.5 horse Briggs. These have a few little problems, the common problems with these things. The valve cover, which you see is the greasy, nasty thing there. You take that off, and there's some valves in there that are frequently out of adjustment. And when they are, it turns over really hard. You go to crank it, and it just acts like the starter's bad, like it just can't get over the hump. And that's because of the compression release, which, if the valves aren't adjusted right, it just doesn't do anything. And so that makes it a little rough. Second problem, very common with these, this intake manifold is made out of plastic, and I don't know if it's from being tightened too much on these two bolts, or if the plastic warps from the engine getting hot, heat and cold, but it loses its seal around the edge of the head here, and it doesn't have a gasket exactly. It's got like an O-ring that is ineffective, and more gasket doesn't always help it. Sometimes you actually have to replace this, or you can sand that. You can take that and put it on something flat with a piece of sandpaper, kind of like you'd polish a head. It needs to be pretty flat, and you can get some of the bow out of it. It's really not worth it. You can get these fairly cheap. But last problem these have frequently, other than, of course, the carburetor. This thing is absolutely filthy. I would be amazed if that carburetor does anything. The carburetor, of course, gets clogged, and the last thing, the worst thing, is these are the ones that have the camshaft with the lobes have been pressed onto a shaft with little splines that aren't enough spline for anything. It's kind of just a friction fit, and they slip. And once that has happened, once they've slipped, good luck. You're done. You're just going to have to get a camshaft if it hasn't put a valve through the head or through the piston, which is pretty unlikely. But sometimes I guess it can happen. But as loose as the cam lobes get when they actually do slip, it'd probably just push cam lobe out of the way. But regardless, it's conceivable that it's got a cam problem. But they said it ran last year. We're going to go with it ran until we find out that it isn't going to. The mower's absolutely filthy. It's not just dust. If you look in here, it's old leaves and dirt and filth. There was a tire on the driver's side, leaking air, the front tire on the driver's side. Here we got some more leaves and stuff. The deck, this is why you need to blow off or hose off the top of your deck every time you mow. This junk gets up around them belts, and there's a few problems with that other than throwing the belts off and stuff. The seat's wonderful. What will happen is the spindles get really hot. They get hot anyway, but with all that junk packed around them where they can't air cool, and there's actually vents there to air cool them around where the spindle's bolted to the deck, they'll get hot enough that it'll cook off the grease in them, and it will cook off the seals. It used to be you could grease these. Hardly any of them have a grease fitting anymore. They have sealed bearings, and some of them, the really shady ones, they put a grease fitting on with a sealed bearing, so you can grease it all day. It's not going to do anything. Very little if it does. And once those rubber seals go, that grease gets mixed up with some nice grit and dirt and everything else you've sucked up, and those bearings go south almost instantly. But anyway, this is the one we're going to piddle with today. Probably better start by taking it apart. We're going to have to take that cover off, see if it's all clogged up with mouse nest and whatnot else. Let's check the air cleaner. I bet the air cleaner's lovely. Let's see. Come out there. No, don't look too bad for... Oh yeah, that's beautiful. It's going to need one of those. No, that's not going to work. All right, let me get you set up in the stand here, and we'll start taking this thing apart. Okay, so first what we need to do is take the hood off. There's two little pins, well, flat tabs I guess. There's one right there, and there's one over there, and they just kind of slip in, and there's a little round rod in there that they hinge back and forth on. It's not a true hinge really, I guess. It just kind of swivels on it. Let me get this set up in the stand. You have to rock it. You lift, you lean it this way, you just kind of wiggle it around, and when you get just the right spot, boop, the hood comes right out. And then you got the cord for the lights. And that's pretty much that. Once the hood's off, you have a significant amount of room to work, which you really didn't have before. Oh yeah, this is a dirty, dirty mower. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this cover off. I try to take the cover off of all of them because mice live in there. They always do. This one's been sitting in a garage forever. And uh-oh, check this level of genius out. These, I don't know if you can see them on the screen, those are Torx, if you can imagine. Now, why would they do that? My guess, nope. My guess is they were trying to keep you from stripping them. And they figured if they gave you something like that, you couldn't really put the power to it, like you would with a ratchet or something else. I just can't understand, though, why it is that they would do that knowing that people don't have the proper tools half the time to be doing that. I do, because I go to a lot of yard sales, but let's see here. We can crack that. Oh yeah, it just fell out. That was easy. That was easy. All right, we'll get around here. The other ones, there's two in the back. They're probably not there. They're probably not there is the word we're looking for. That one's missing. The other one, probably be a 3/8. Let's see. 3/8 or 8mm. We're going to go with 3/8 and see what happens. Come around here. Yeah, we're hiding right back there in the hole. There's one right here. This may not be a job for a ratchet. Might not get in there. Oh yeah, it went. Technically, you don't have to take these all the way out. They're split at the bottom, so if you loosen it up enough, it'll just come right out. Anyway, the spiders. Let me go ahead and buzz them out, and I'll be right back. All right, so that should have all the bolts out. All three of them. It's missing one. I use these little bolt trays you get from Harbor Freight. They're magnetic, dirt cheap. Get a blister pack with 3 or 4 of them in it for a few bucks. Definitely worth the money. Let's take this lid off and see what we got. Well, we got a screw or bolt or something in here too, maybe? Or is it just, there's an O-ring. Nope, just no ring. All right, okay. Well, here's what I was afraid of. See all that junk packed in there? That's bad. That is bad. That junk packed in there, acorns, and it's not too bad on this side. Looks pretty good over here. Pretty good in the front. Little dirt packed in this hole. There's a hole here, and there's all kinds of schmoo in there. But this is an issue. That's got to go. Probably the air compressor. So I'm going to try to clean some of that, but it's getting power washed. This thing is just skunky. I don't like the looks of that. There's oil caked here. Could be this pipe's leaking, but there's also oil here. Makes me worry the top seal up here underneath this flywheel. This is, of course, where your starter spins your engine. Under there, the shaft, the crankshaft comes out, hooks onto this. That's where how that locates and gets timed properly. But there's a seal in there that will very rarely go out. This one, though, has enough oil up here, it makes me worry a bit. Also makes me wonder, all this oil here could be the valve cover gaskets leaking, be my best guess. But let's see. I think what we probably want to do is put a battery in this thing, give it a little shot, starting fluid, carb cleaner, whatever. A little shot of something and see if when we crank it, it even attempts to go. Let's see what's in the gas tank. Gas tank. Well, there's something in there. It's liquid. It sloshes. It smells like it's fresh from the dinosaur. It might be turning back into crude. It's a little old. Oil. Well, have a look. Oh, yeah, that's going to turn all over the place. I'm going to slip that out of there. Oh, it's a little dirty and a lot low, which doesn't surprise me, given the fact that it looks to be hemorrhaging it everywhere. We'll find out. Let me get a battery. I got one laying around here, brand new one for another project. I'll stuff in it. I believe that goes over here. Oh yeah, 21, 9 of 2021. Well, that battery has a chance of coming out of it, but it is stone cold dead. And generally, when they get stone cold dead and then they freeze, which this probably froze, they're not going to hold a charge again. But we'll see. We'll give it a try here. I'll put it on the charger, but for the time being, let's just shovel a different battery in it just to see if we can make it go. Alright, I'm going to take these bolts loose. Now, technically, you're supposed to remove this negative cable first, and you're supposed to put the negative cable on last. And the reason for that is since I'm connected to the negative, and the negative is ground on this vehicle and on most vehicles, you touch it to the body, you're not going to get a spark. Now, in a negative ground or a positive ground vehicle, that could be a problem. Looks like I'm going to need a socket or something. Let's see here. Do I have? Yes. Ratchet. Alright. Put 10 on that. See if we can hold it still one way or the other. This way, maybe. Alright. These should not be the bolts that came with it. At this time, I don't know how old this is, but I'd say it's pretty old. They did not use metric bolts on the battery. This is probably from the 90s. If it's 2000s, it's very early 2000s. It's hydrostatic. I'd say it's the 90s, if I had to guess. My God, that's rusty and nasty and messed up. There it goes. And this one, I feel like I'm going to be reusing those. A little cover here for the hot one. Now, tuck that out of the way where I can't touch. And now, see, I can be against the body with that positive. Nothing can happen. I'd rather not be against the body with the positive, but sometimes that's what you're left with. Huh, that one's even rustier and the other one comes off easier. That is bad. I'm going to have to find some better bolts. Let me go poke around and see what I can turn up. Anything will do better than that. Alright, we got the new battery in the hole. The bolts I come up with aren't the best. I'm going to have to go to the store and get some more bolts. Anyway, like I was saying before, you want to put the positive on first when you're installing a battery. Put that here, and that here, I guess. I cleaned these terminals up a little with wire brush. I'll have to bring the die grinder with the wire rotary brush in it. Come out here and shine them up a little better, because that's pretty bad, really. Even shined up, they're pretty bad. I might end up changing them, but I'm hoping I don't have to. There's a lot of meat left, a lot of copper left on those, so they should clean up good. Okay, and this one, do the same thing with it. Got a lot of battery cable here, extra. Put that over there, I guess. It doesn't really matter as long as they're not going to be shorting out against stuff, which the ground can't really short out against stuff anyway, other than the hot. It can short out against the hot, but there's no way for that to happen here. I'm going to spin that on. Now, what did I do with that wrench? Oh, these are going to be 7/16, not 10 millimeter. Okay, snug that up. That's good. Okay. Turn this cover over. It doesn't really do much, but there's some outside chance that could short on something. I'll cover that up, gather all the tools off of there, move them down here is fine. And we'll take you out of this stand and move you around. We're going to test fire this, see if it does anything. Okay. I haven't given it a squirt yet. Didn't give it any starting fluid. We're just going to see if it'll start with the gas that's in it. Choke. See if the carburetor's any good at all. Now you notice can you see that from there? Well, if you kind of pay attention right here, you've got two levers. This one, the one that's barely moving, that's the throttle. That would be closed, that would be wide open. The governor makes it be wide open till it starts, and then the governor shuts it down to whatever speed you've set on your lever here on the dash. Now, once you go beyond a certain point, you'll note that second one right here moves, and that is the choke. And it is stiff. This is going to need a little spray just to clean it up. Let's see if it tries. Nice. That's not a good sign. I wonder if this thing hasn't had the camshaft slip, because that is quite the puff. Okay, well, it runs. I'm going to say it hasn't had the camshaft slip. Surprisingly, that runs really well. Okay, I don't know what that big puff was in the beginning. Oh, yeah, I do. The way the compression release works is it lets a little compression out so that it's easy to turn over. Makes it easy to start. And some of them vent back towards the carburetor instead of out the exhaust. I assume they vent back towards the carburetor because they're trying really hard not to light it off in the exhaust if your engine's hot. Because, you know, your compression stroke, when it compresses the gas and air mix, if you open that valve just a little bit to release some of that compression and it goes in the muffler and the muffler's hot, you're going to get a kaboom. With an air cleaner on there, that big poof you wouldn't have even noticed really. So my guess is this is one of those that evacuates through the carburetor back through the intake, the extra pressure to make it easy to start. The compression release vents back that way. Well, anyway, it runs, and it runs really well. So it's just going to need a cleanup, which is kind of surprising, but we need to look into the oil leak if it has one. Once it's all clean, you'll see fresh oil. When it's all filthy like this, you don't know new oil from old because it's just everywhere. So it's going to need a cleaning. We need to probably take that deck off. Let's probably do that next. That deck is a disaster, and I suspect there's a lot wrong with it. Let me change things around here so you can see, and we'll start removing that deck. The engine very clearly is in better shape than it looks. Alright, we'll be back in a minute. Alright, so to get the deck off, what we got is a pin here in the front, and this pin should have a washer, and it does not. That goes, let's loosen that up a little. It goes through the hole there, and then the pin goes in it, and the washer is meant to keep you from wearing the pin out with this piece of metal, rubbing it right on that hole there. It's gonna, there's a little hole there that pin goes in. It's going to wear the side of the pin out, and that's bad news if you can get a hold of it. Oh man, this is going to be a tough one. Oh, that is a tough one. That's one of them real stiff pins. I'm having to fight with that one a little. Let's get it out of the kink. Yeah. We get it down here. There. Now, come right out. Put that through. This one doesn't appear very worn. You look at that pin there, there's not a lot of wear. There's a little right here. There's a little notch getting worn in it. Because that pin sat way down in that hole. The washer would have prevented that. If you just had the washer on there, that would have resolved that issue. But a lot of times people take a deck off, and when they put it back in, they don't put the washer back on. Now there's some more pins over here. Let me change my orientation a little bit and we'll show you what they look like. Okay, so we were right here. And we come around and go down a little bit. If we can get that low. And down here, right there is another one. And it's the same exact thing, except it's going to be a lot easier to get out because it's not one of them stiff pins. Let's see if we can get a hold of it there. Alright. Now you get a hold of it. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And it's going to fight. Alright, I'm going to turn you off for a second, pull that one. And then there's this one. Now this one does not really hold the deck up. That keeps the deck from moving back and forth. From going this way. That keeps it straight. It's a brace to make it more sturdy so the deck isn't shaking all over the place and leaning this way and leaning that way. It's more for stability. It doesn't really do anything to hold the deck up. We get the other pins out. There's one just like this one here on the other side. Exact same thing. Let's get the pins out. We get a look at this deck. Okay, I've set this deck down all the way. What we're going to do here is push these things out. So this one, it's out. It just went on that peg. This one here is going to be a struggle. There it is. That wasn't much of a struggle after all. And see, these will go up. See if we can get you in the frame here. That just came off of this peg, and I pulled it this way and falls off. Once we get the other one pulled out, I will raise the deck. Of course, the deck won't go up because it's not connected. But what it will do is pick these up out of my way so I can get the deck out from under here. Let's go around and get the other one. Let's see here. And it is kind of a challenge to get at. I don't know why. It's a lot farther under there. Alright. There's this one. I'm going to reach in there and just pull on it. It should pop right out of there. Might have to... Let's see if we can find an angle you can see at here. There. Now that is what's going on here. Let me see if I pick the deck up some. Take some weight off of it. If that helps. It's in a bit of a bind. No. It didn't help a bit. I'm going to have to get something pry barred here. Screwdriver. Let's try that. Yeah. Okay, so as I snudge that off of there, boop. Now, we get that lift this deck up. Those things, you see, just get right out of my way. We got one more thing. One more. Scoot up a little bit. Okay. The engagement thing. I'll show you this better when we get it out. But there's a lever. It's a red handle right here that you flop to turn it on. Engages the deck. Well, thing is this. That is a cable. That cable comes down. It's over here. It comes down, there's a spring that kind of absorbs the fact that it's not going to be perfect every time. As you raise and lower the deck, the tension would be different. That spring lets it pull the belt tight and then let it pull it past tight. You know, if the deck is in a place where it needs a little more cable without hurting anything, the spring has a little give to it. Anyway, this, what I'm pulling on here, this pushes against the belt and tightens it up. But what we got to do is pull this little pin out of here. Now the washer's on wrong. See, this spring just slides right over the top. There's a little hole there. But this washer, I'm not sure, I'm fairly sure that should have been on top. But now that I look at it, maybe it's not on wrong. Because that almost looks like it would drop down over that bolt quite a ways. Let's have a peek, see what happens. Oh yeah, it would wear them threads. Yep, washer's on right. That's the way it goes. Okay, and I said one more thing, but I lied. One more thing. Back here, that cable attaches to the deck, comes in, there's a little hole here. Got yet another pin. And this little washer here doesn't actually come off, it just kind of fits in there, this little feller. We just throw him out of the way. Now, the deck will come off? No. Now we got to get the belt. The belt's usually a bit of a chore because there's a belt retainer there. You can loosen the bolt for that if you have to. It's better not to screw with it as long as you don't bend it. It's better just to let it alone and go around it because they're usually springy. This one is. Alright. So what we do is we spring it a little. Get that belt past that, like so. Once it's past that, now, oh, I was wrong. See, I thought that was awful off center over there when I pulled that pin. There's one more thing. This one, somebody's put a cutter key in, if you can imagine that. Let's see if I can smash that by hand. Yeah, okay, so a cotter pin, that's not the way to go. Thankfully, I've got some extra pins. Okay, let's get this one out. Okay, it's out. Now, to finish getting that belt off, we have to scoot the deck up. Boop, and the belt fell off. Piece of cake. I'll just drag this deck out. I'll be back in a second. Okay. Alright, I've dragged the deck out. Now, a while ago, I showed you that little spring and cable. Hooks on here. And when you pull that lever, it pushes this forward. There. And when it goes forward, what it does is tightens this belt. Will be tight back this way towards the motor. And when you let go of the cable, when you send the cable back down unhooked, this goes up here, loosens this, and then the motor will be spinning up here, but it won't be turning this belt. It'll just be spinning around in the open hole where the belt was tight, but now it's not. The belt appears to be in pretty good shape. It's not all cracked up in that, but filthy. Got junk just packed in here. This is going to take a while to clean up. Let's look at the underneath, though. I had some concerns. When I was getting this out of the trailer, it felt to me like it was hanging up. And they don't generally hang up. Also, maybe that wheel? I don't know, but it's not touching the ground back here, up here. Well, let's stand it up. Let's see what we got. Could be bent. Oh, I hope not. Oh. Okay. Well, do you remember a while ago when I said maybe one of these blades has been into a horseshoe. I feel like that's outside of spec. I feel like that is not as it is supposed to be. So yeah, that's no. No sir, that will not work. The belt's loose on the pins there too. There's a spline in there. It's got 6 or 8 points, or 6, 5. It could vary, but it's usually 5 or 6. And that happened, I guarantee you, when they hit the manhole cover or tree stump or whatever did that. Because I bet you this one is tight. We go to wiggle it, yeah, there's no wobble there. This one, you'll notice, if you watch right here, it moves and the bolt don't. That's a bad sign. Okay, well, that's going to take some blades and some cleaning. As you can see, the junk's packed up under here. This really needs a deck wash. Okay, we'll scrounge up some blades. I've got the battery that was on it charging. Maybe it'll work, probably won't. The engine needs clean, but thankfully not going to be a whole lot to do to that to improve it, other than check for an oil leak, make sure it's not just a hole in that hose or something. Alright, well, let me get some parts together and we'll be back. Let's go have a look and see how that battery's coming out. Got him on my old charger. Battery says, well, there it says it's charged. I don't know that I believe that. It's probably taking a hot charge, but the only way to really find out is plug it in the tractor and see how it goes. It's not puking any acid out. The sides are straight. Usually when a battery's bad, the dead giveaway when it's all full of crystallization and that from the plates corroding is the ends over here will be bloped out a little bit. They'll have a curve to them because as those plates get junk packed between them, as it corrodes, it swells. And those plates are laid in this direction, and as they push out the side of the battery. But they look okay. Can't get the lid off of it. This is one of them sealed up jobs. It's not made for opening up, so you can't check the fluid or any of that. Don't know if it's got any acid in it. Well, the best way to find out if it's any good is plug it in there and see what happens. I think the next thing I'm going to do is, well, I've been thinking about it. I think it might have a bad head gasket. Now, this thing is sorted out in such a way that you can't get to all the bolts without kind of disassembling things like the muffler. But let's just check. One thing you'll notice with a bad head gasket is the head bolts get loose. It's usually not even the head gasket that's at fault. What'll happen is it'll overheat and stretch the head bolts. And when it stretches the head bolts, they're loose. And because they're now loose, the head gasket is no longer sealing because there's not pressure on it as there should be. Let me see if I can find the right socket for these. I'm gonna guess it's in the inch range, not metric. Could it be ½ inch? It could. Alright, so what we're going to do is just put the wrench on them here, the socket, and give them a little, that one's good and tight, that's not it. When they're loose, it's usually pretty obvious. That one's not moving. That one's not moving. I can't get, there's one right here I cannot get to because the muffler is right in the way. So we're going to skip it for now and move to here. That one's fine. Where else have we got them? There's down here at the bottom. No problem there. There's one here, I think. Oh yeah, I feel it. It's right there. And we're on it. That's good and tight. And there should be one here somewhere. There it is. Well, I don't know. I do know that there's an awful lot of oil around the spark plug hole, but it isn't just the spark plug hole. It's basically anywhere oil could get. For now, we're going to assume it's the valve cover. I cleaned this thing up a little. I took the valve cover off, checked the valves, they're fine. There was really no point in going through all that unless I was going to adjust them. So that didn't make footage. I just don't believe, I thought for a while that it could be the top seal. The top seal hardly ever goes out. With this thing, the way it's built is the motor turns in this direction, which would be clockwise from the top. And these fins catch air and push it up through the top. There's a shroud, of course, that was over this. So it sucks air up all through the bottom, up here, through these, and out. You'd think there'd be more oil on this if it was sucking it up from here. But nevertheless, I see oil. Well, I tightened this valve cover up a lot better than it was. It was really loose. I don't know if somebody was fooling around in there or what, but if they were, they did pretty good on the valves. So we're going to move on to what? We're going to put the cover back on it. It's missing a bolt. I've got that. I'll go find a bolt for it. And then we're going to get on the deck. The deck has issues and a couple other issues. But it's got problems. But I think I can fix it up. I believe that's where we're at now. I'm going to put the engine back together and see if it smokes. We're going to change the oil, of course. The oil is bad and there's not much in it. Let's start with that. Let me get the cover back on this. So we'll start that back up once I find a bolt. Okay, I think I've got the bolt found. It's just a little bit different than the other one. There's one bolt that goes in the side with the dipstick, and there's one side that does not have a dipstick, and the bolt is a little shorter, and that's what I have here. What I've come up with, as you can see, when you line them up, one of them's a little bit on the shorter side, both on this little sleeve and on the threads, and I do believe that's the one that goes there with a plastic lid. The plastic lid's kind of thick. Well, I don't know now that I look at it. It looks too short. No, it'll probably work. Well, we're going to find out. Alright, so anyway, I get this. You got to watch when you plug this in that you get that dipstick right where it belongs. There's like a little slot for it. And there's part of the shroud here over on this side that you've got to get tucked in just right for it to fit. Kind of a pain, honestly. But it'll go. And get that stopper out because that's going to be in the way. Okay. That there. If I've done my job right, should settle right down into place. It feels like it probably did. Now, this dipstick, that feels good so far. You have to kind of wiggle this around. This dipstick right here. You gotta, because that little sleeve's got to go through it too. Give it the wiggle wiggle. It's going. I suspect we're pretty close to past. Yeah, we're in. Okay. And you don't want to tighten any of these until they're all in. You can hand tighten them. Put them in with your fingers, but that's as far as you want to go. And then these front ones, they're the ones that are Torx, of course. It's no big deal. I've got the Torx bit, but I can just see. Let's get that where it belongs. Uh-oh, now it's messed up there. There. I think. There, yeah, now we're in. Alright, that goes over here. This goes in there. And this goes in there. Oh boy. There it goes. Tried to cross thread on me. A mosquito after me. Now let's see if this one's... get out of here, mosquito. Nobody asked for you. This last one, I don't know. I think it might be a bit short. But we're going to find out. Man, that mosquito's going to rumble. Let's see if it hits metal. Oh, it does. This is probably going to be okay. Yep, there it goes. It went right in. Good. Alright, I'm going to get the wrench. Looks about 7/16, but we're going to find out. Or 3/8. That's 5/16. That's not what we want. Let's see if it's this one. Yeah, 3/8. Okay, that one's in good. Go around the other side. One back here. This one holds the dipstick in as well as a shroud on. And then these Torx ones, I'll strip them. Of course, dropped it. Torx bits here. That just slid right off, didn't it? Let's see. This one? Yep. Alright. Back around. Set you down. Find a ratchet. Wrench back. Alright, these. Generally, if the head gasket's gone, they smoke like a freight train. When I started this, it didn't smoke honestly at all. It ran great. So, just not sure where that oil's coming from. But it can't really be coming from the flywheel. The crankshaft's sealed up by the flywheel. Can't really be coming from there. These are good snug and they'll be fine. Yeah, it's good. Okay. Well, we're going to call that okay for now. Let me get moved around here and we'll work on that deck. Alright, so what we have here is two decks. We have the deck on the left, which is the one that's on the mower we're fixing. It came from it. And then on the right, we have a parts deck. Now, we need a parts deck for a couple of reasons. And the number one is going to be these idler pulleys. This one, let me get this belt out of here, is nice. Nothing wrong there. Move that belt back. This one, good heavens, that ain't right. That noise is dry, rusty, cruddy bearings. That's pretty bad. You'd think with it just rolling nice and smooth like that, it'd be okay. But that thing would get so hot, it'd probably glow. And it is not long for this world. Now I've got, over here, two pulleys. That one's nice. And that one, it makes a small amount of noise, but you really got to listen for it. It's in pretty good shape. This one is wonderful. I don't know if these are the same. If these two are the same, I'm going to use this quiet one. This one's mostly quiet. Well, that one's dead quiet. Now you might be asking yourself, well, they're only 12 or 13 bucks on eBay. Why wouldn't you buy one? This lady is trying to spend the least amount of money possible. And if I can set her up with a good one for almost nothing, it's going to be better than another $15 on the bill. She didn't want to spend a lot of money on it, I'm sure. This mower's not worth a lot of money in prime condition. So we're just going to get it back together with good parts and make it go. All right, let me get some tools. I'm probably going to have to turn the air compressor on. Let me fire up the air compressor and get some tools out here. We'll start busting these things apart and see if we can't come up with enough pulleys to do the job. Okay, compressor shut off. Let's see if we can't buzz this off with the 3/8 impact. Maybe we can, probably we can't. Probably gonna need the 1/2 inch. That's forward, that's reverse. Well, I stand corrected. It's coming right out of there. Okay. Let's see if I can't put this nut back on here. Don't want to lose that in case I need it someday. I also noticed there's a spring here, a return spring, supposed to pull that release back forward, and this deck over here, it does not have one. Now the one we're hoping to replace with that good pulley, the best pulley, is this one here. Let's see, it's going to be much the same drill. So, there it is. Now let's see if they're the same. The diameter looks good. The offset's good. It's going to fit in the spot. Get this nut out of here and drop it. I think it'll be okay. I believe. Let me put this in forward, buzz it down, make sure clearance is good. I think it will be. It should be. Put that on there. But it ain't. It's touching. They may not be the exact same diameter. They are awful close. They gotta be. Okay. So, what seems to be the issue there? Well, sometimes what you gotta do is break out the man hammer. Perfect. It just needs a little tap. We're not going to go into why two identical pulleys fit different. I'm afraid we don't care. Okay, that brake, missing the spring for starters. For second, the pad. Let's see if we can get that in frame there. Brake pad's completely gone. Now this one's filthy, but there's a little brake pad on here. And that little brake pad is supposed to stop the pulley. When you turn off the deck, it's supposed to slow it down faster. I assume they think you might be turning off the deck because something went under the mower you don't want to mow, and that's going to keep it from chewing it up so much. It's not as necessary as it might be. It does have one on the other side, intact and working, spring on it and everything. But this thing just flopping around here, I don't know if I like that either. Now, let's see. I have to find a spring. Is this one straight? This one appears to be in good shape. Let's see if this is the same size. Bolt is at, no, it's smaller. Okay, gonna need a different socket. This one? What is that, 1/2 inch? That's probably it. the socket on the tool. Let's see if that'll just ease right off of there. Put that in reverse. Yeah. Comes right off. Got a washer. That's important. Spit that out the hole. Get the good one. Spit it in the hole. A little bearing. Yeah. There's a little bearing on the back of these. I'm going to make sure that thing turns easy, because it'll give you a world of trouble if it don't. He'll bind up. You won't be able to put it in gear. You break the cable trying to put it in gear. Alright. Washer. Put this in forward. We hope we can keep that washer on there and not get our finger. And we missed. Alright. There's not a good way to do that. You do not want your finger in there when you hit the tighten button. Let me try to sneak it on. Wrong gear. Put that in forward. I think we're right back where we started. There we go. That's what we want. I only mashed my fingernail a little. Alright. So, let's see if I can't scare up a spring for that. And I'm just going to transplant this spring here from the other deck. Take that right off of there. And put that right in here. Right there's where that baby goes. Hope that's in shot. Right down there. Much better. Okay, and this, get the belt bound up. Get that belt where it goes. That goes just like so. And if it had spring on it, it'd be perfect. I'm going to go find a spring. I'll be right back. Okay, I went and rummaged through my stuff, found a spring, put that on there. So now, if you watch this brake right here, kicks it open. And same over here, we got one there, we got the spring here. If I let go, it puts itself back. I feel like we got it. Now we just got to do that blade that's turned into a pretzel. That's on the other side of the deck. Let me get you, get that deck turned around and get you lined up to see. We're going to change them blades. Those blades are awful, and I got two brand new ones that came from this other deck over here, the deceased deck. Somebody put brand new blades on it and then didn't run them. I don't know why. They're a little rusty, but I mean new is new. So let me go find that and we'll be back.